Have you ever stopped to think about what a dog would do for the love of its owner? We're not talking about trained tricks nor about repeated stories, but about a choice made on the edge between life and death. It was an ordinary day like any other. The sky was clear, the sun warming the backyard, and a border collie frolicking carefree among the plants, as he did every morning. The family smiled, the routine went on peacefully. Until, suddenly, the silence was broken by a dry, urgent, desperate sound. In a matter of seconds, everything turned to tension, rushing, and a body sprawled on the ground. It's in these moments that life reveals its fragility. And it was at that precise moment that something extraordinary began to happen. The dog stopped. His gaze changed. He was no longer the playful pup chasing leaves or jumping in the sprinkler. It was as if, in that second, all his instincts had transformed into absolute focus. Without anyone asking, without any instructions, he took off. But where? And how did he know? Have you ever experienced this? The feeling of time standing still, of having no control, of needing help and not knowing where it will come from. Because what you're about to discover may surprise you deeply. Because this border collie didn't just sense something was wrong. He knew what he needed to do. And even more impressive, he knew where to go. There was no map, no guide, no human showing the way. There was only his heart, and an urgency that seemed to speak louder than anything. While despair gripped the house, the dog was already out on the street, dodging cars, crossing corners, following a straight line as if someone were guiding him. But there was no one, and still he ran. With each step, hope took shape. It was as if that run had a purpose, as if the owner's very life were tied to the success of that silent mission. And you will understand how this dog literally became the bridge between tragedy and miracle. Stay with me until the end of this story, because what this dog did when he arrived at the hospital left everyone in shock. And the look in his eyes, well, that's something even words can't fully explain. But one thing is certain. After reading this story, you'll never look at a dog the same way again. And it was like that, amidst the chaos of a seemingly ordinary day, that everything changed. And just like that, amid the chaos of a seemingly ordinary day, everything changed. That dog, with watchful eyes and paws firmly planted on the hot asphalt, didn't hesitate for a moment. It was as if each step was guided by something greater than himself. And as he ran, he might not have even known he was becoming a hero, but we do. Because sometimes courage comes in the most unlikely forms. And when it comes on four paws, it leaves a lasting impression. If this topic resonates with you, if at some point in your life an animal has surprised you with a gesture of care, protection, or simply pure love, leave a comment below with what touched you most about this story. Your voice makes a difference here. It's with it that we build a community that values the bonds between humans and animals, that believes these stories deserve to be told, remembered, and shared. And when you like this video or subscribe to the channel, it's not just a click. It's like saying, I want to see more of this. I want more people to know these heartwarming stories. Your participation here is what makes this channel grow and reach more people with this kind of content that moves, inspires, and transforms. And as the border collie strode steadily through the city, something even more unbelievable was about to happen. He was there, as he did every day, lying near the plants, observing the movement of the house, the sounds around him, the smell of coffee still lingering in the air. But in that instant, when his owner's body fell, something shifted in the atmosphere, and he felt it. Even before anyone could shout for help, the border collie was on his feet, eyes wide, ears pricked, as if the world around him had gone completely silent, except for an invisible signal that only he could detect. The bark that followed wasn't a bark at all. Anyone who's ever lived with a dog knows. There's the playful bark, the warning bark, and the one you never forget, the bark that sounds like a cry of desperation and sends shivers down your spine. That was it. A sound charged with urgency, with tension, with something that transcended mere noise. He circled, looking at his owner on the ground, then at the street, then back at his owner. as if trying to communicate, trying to say, "Let me go. I know what to do." And the most impressive thing is that, amid the human's panic, rushing to get the phone, understand what was happening, or call emergency services, the dog didn't hesitate. He made a decision, and it wasn't a simple, automatic decision like reaching for a toy. It was a choice that required courage, focus, and a level of awareness that many underestimate when looking at animals. He didn't run off in a disoriented manner. He chose a direction, a destination, a goal. Science has proven time and time again that dogs like Border Collies are among the most intelligent breeds in the world. They rank at the top of tests of memory, command comprehension, reading human expressions, and even interpreting emotions. But what not all studies explain is this more subtle layer, this invisible bond between dog and owner, which in extreme moments causes the animal to activate an almost supernatural mode of reaction. It's not just intelligence, it's empathy, it's loyalty, it's raw, instinctive, and true love in action. According to canine behavior experts, dogs create mental maps based on their owners' daily journeys. They know the way to the bakery, the children's school, the park, and yes, even the hospital, if they've been there before. But what makes this story so unbelievable is the fact that, on that day, there was no routine whatsoever. It wasn't walk time. There were no visual cues, no commands. It was pure intuition, connected to the urgent need to save someone they loved. And that was exactly what triggered that reaction. His gaze at that moment wasn't the same as usual. Those watching could see a quiet strength in the dog's eyes, a gleam that said, "I understand, and I'm going to do something." It's hard to put into words, but it was as if the owner's pain had transformed into energy in that dog's body. He didn't run away. He didn't hide. He faced the outside world with a single purpose: to seek help. And that in itself changes everything. Perhaps we're too accustomed to underestimating animals' sensitivity. Perhaps, amidst the rush, the routine, the human priorities, we forget that they're constantly observing, feeling, absorbing every change in our tone of voice, our mood, our body. And when something deviates from the norm, they notice it before we do. What happened there was more than an act of heroism. It was a pure response of love, in the most loyal way possible. And that's why, when we see stories like this, something inside us stirs. Because it reminds us that the bond between humans and dogs isn't just functional or companionable, it's spiritual. It's a silent connection that reveals itself most clearly when the world collapses, and all that remains is the truth of those who are there completely, asking nothing in return. Write in the comments, "I'm on this journey too," if you've experienced something similar, or if this story is stirring up something deep inside you. Now, I want to delve even deeper into this topic. The street was busy. Cars sped past as usual. Horns echoed between buildings. People walked by with bags, headphones on, and distracted glances at their cell phones. No one imagined that, at that very moment, a dog without a leash, panting and determined, was running through it all with a mission that not even the humans around him could understand. He didn't stop. He didn't deviate from his path out of fear, noise, or doubt. There was something in his stride, in his breathing, that was more than instinct. It was purpose. It was urgency. It was a direct response to the life that was at stake. There were obstacles, traffic, and he ran as if he knew every second counted, as if time had become his enemy and he couldn't afford to lose even a fraction of it. And even without a GPS, without a leash, without anyone at his side to guide him, that Border Collie continued in a straight line, as if he'd walked that route hundreds of times. And maybe he had. Maybe his brain had mapped out every corner during walks with his owner. But it wasn't just memory, it was an emotional reading of the moment. He knew where he needed to go, and that in itself was astonishing. People looked, of course. Some tried to stop him, thinking he was a lost dog. Others simply saw that furry figure running like lightning and went on their way. The world outside didn't know this was a race against death, that there was a life waiting for that desperate gesture. And yet, even without anyone knowing, he kept going. as if a silent force was telling him, "Go, now, run!" And he did, as if he had already made the decision not to return without help. When he finally turned the last corner and the hospital appeared ahead, the impossible began to take shape before everyone's eyes. The image of a dog crossing the hospital entrance alone, without a leash, with fixed eyes and heavy breathing, stopping right at the emergency door. It was the kind of scene that would freeze anyone. A security guard tried to stop him, but he stopped. There was something in that look that said, "I have a reason," and he did. What he did upon arriving shocked everyone. He barked, not just any bark. It was a raspy, urgent, insistent sound. He paced in circles, stared at people, returned to the door, and then repeated the cycle. This wasn't confusion. It was a request. It was a plea in the form of behavior. It was communication that transcended the species barrier. And that's when a nurse approached, knelt down, looked him in the eye and said, "You want to show me something, don't you?" And he responded. A light jump, a quick turn, a higher-pitched bark. That was enough. The hospital authorized someone to follow him. A receptionist, also a dog lover, grabbed a badge, put on her sneakers, and decided to follow this strange guide. And what followed was one of the most moving scenes in the city. The dog ran ahead, stopping every so often to make sure she was still following, and then picking up speed again. Within minutes, they were back at the house. The technician saw the gate ajar, the movement inside the house, and the despair on the family's faces. When her eyes fell on the body lying on the living room floor and the hand still trembling weakly on his chest, she understood everything. All she could say was, "He came for help." This journey is a powerful reminder of how decisions made with the heart, even by those who don't speak our language, can have a profound impact. It's the hidden truth we often overlook, that the connection between us and animals goes far beyond the visible. There's an emotional intelligence behind this relationship that we can't always decipher, but which, in extreme moments, reveals itself undeniably. The puppy didn't just know the way to the hospital. He knew what was at stake. It's impossible to watch this scene without being moved, without wondering how often we underestimate the sensitivity of the beings we live with. And how many lives may have been saved by such actions, silent, determined, purposeful. This story is about mindset, about quick decisions, about unshakable trust. And above all, it's about love. The kind of love that doesn't need to be explained, just felt. Write in the comments, "This makes sense to me," if you also believe there are connections that go beyond logic. Now I want to delve even deeper into this topic. That door opened. And with it, a chance at life walked down the hallway. When the security guard pulled back the tape and the hospital worker followed the dog down the stairs, no one there knew for sure what was happening. But there was something about that Border Collie's behavior that made even the most skeptical stop and take notice. It wasn't disorientation, it wasn't fear. It was direction. It was urgency. It was as if his every step said, "Come with me now." Behind the scenes at the hospital, word spread quickly. There's a dog in the emergency room. And in other circumstances, this might have caused a disturbance or a call for vigilance. But curiously, at that moment, no one interrupted. No doctor complained. No nurse moved the animal away. On the contrary, everyone stopped for a second and observed. It was as if, even without understanding exactly what was happening, the people there understood that this scene conveyed something different, something that transcended the everyday. That four-legged presence conveyed a silent but absolutely clear appeal. And the most curious thing, some of the staff recognized the dog. He'd come here with his owner a few times. He'd sit outside waiting. The revelation struck like a thunderbolt among those listening. That dog knew exactly where he was. And not only that, he'd returned because this was the place where life could be saved. It was more than a memory of space. It was a decision based on meaning. The hospital for him was the point of transformation, where his human had been cared for before, where something good had happened. And that's why he returned, because he believed that if someone there knew, everything could change. As he ran back with the technician in tow, Every corner seemed to carry the weight of hope. And when they reached the house and saw what was happening, there was no longer any doubt. The man was still breathing, but with difficulty. The family's expressions were a picture of helplessness. Help hadn't yet arrived, but he had been called. By a dog, by a friend, by someone who didn't need words to understand love in its purest and most loyal form. The ambulance was called immediately. Health professionals arrived in less than 5 minutes, guided by that unexpected connection between the hospital and an animal's instincts. And the medical team confirmed if the treatment had taken longer, the outcome might have been different. The dog's owner, still unconscious, was taken away in critical but stable condition. Recovery would be slow, but there was life. There was hope. There was time. And this, everyone there knew, only happened because a dog took the lead, took command, and ran as if everything depended on him. Because it did. This story alone would be shocking. But what makes it even more impressive is knowing that such cases exist in abundance and often go unnoticed. Dogs that alert people to fires, that detect seizures minutes before they happen, that find lost children in the woods, or that sense, before anyone else, when a heart is about to stop. Science calls this heightened sensory perception. But those who have experienced it know there's something more. A hidden truth in this connection that defies statistics, defies logic, defies everything we know about the animal mind and body. A study from Kyoto University in Japan showed that dogs can identify trustworthy and untrustworthy behavior in humans, even when the human themselves don't give off any visible signs of deception. Another study conducted in Germany suggests that dogs can detect sudden drops in their owner's blood sugar levels simply by smell, even from meters away. These are data, numbers, experiments, but nothing replaces the real impact seen in the eyes of a dog who understands what's at stake and takes action. There's a kind of silent intelligence that reveals itself precisely when everything around it collapses. And it's at this moment that the purest decisions happen, without hesitation, without calculation, just movement. The transformation this story provokes goes beyond the heroic act. It invites us to rethink our relationships, our perception of animals, our idea of sensitivity. What we call instinct is often a form of consciousness we don't yet know how to decipher. But we feel it. The reunion at the hospital hours later was breathtaking. The owner was still groggy, on a ventilator, but upon hearing the dog's name, he made a slight movement with his fingers. When the dog was allowed into the room, just for a few minutes, he only had to rest his head on the edge of the gurney for the monitor's vital signs to show a slight improvement. Nothing technical, nothing measurable, just the kind of thing you feel. That gives you goosebumps. That transforms you. The dog made headlines. He earned the respect of an entire medical team. But above all, he demonstrated something we may have forgotten, that quiet loyalty when guided by love has the power to create miracles. He had no diploma, no uniform, no siren, no lab coat. But that day, he was the rescue, the first to notice, the first to act, the first to save. Comment below. I believe in this kind of connection, if this story also made you see animals differently. Now I want to go even deeper into this subject. The recovery was slow, but filled with meaning. Days later, still with wires attached to his body and his voice caught between silences and sighs, the owner opened his eyes and asked for the name that meant most to him. It wasn't doctor nor nurse nor even what happened. It was simply his dog's name. When he heard that the dog was okay, that he had been the one to bring help, a single tear ran down the corner of his face. And there, in that silent gesture, without speech, without ceremony, there was a profound surrender, an acknowledgement of something words cannot convey. He knew everything. He knew the risk he took, the thin line that nearly snapped, and the hero who held that line steady with his paws on the ground and his heart ablaze. The reunion couldn't have been more symbolic. The room filled with life when the dog entered. The gaze between them was direct, unwavering, as if they were connected by something transcending time and space. The Border Collie didn't jump, bark, or run. He simply walked to the stretcher, climbed in calmly, and laid his head on his owner's chest, as if to say, "It's all right now." I stayed, and he did. He kept vigil every day, at the foot of the bed, attentive to every movement, every gesture, every expression. The hospital allowed him to be present. Doctors and nurses, previously skeptical, became allies in that scene that seemed straight out of a movie. But it was real life. It was a behind-the-scenes glimpse of what we experience but rarely see. The community, upon learning of the incident, was not indifferent. The story spread throughout the city like a breath of hope. Children drew pictures of the dog in schools, markets posted posters with its image, and neighbors left jars of treats at their gates. This wasn't fame. It was collective gratitude. A sense of belonging to this narrative that had the power to restore something that has been scarce, the belief in the value of simple, silent, and utterly transformative actions. And when we look at this story a little more calmly, we understand that recognition isn't just a medal or a headline. It's an invitation, a call for a change in mindset. Because for a long time, animals were seen merely as a complement to the routine, as part of the domestic landscape. But the hidden truth, which stories like this clearly reveal, is that they carry within them an emotional intelligence that often surpasses our own. An empathy that acts without asking permission. A courage that doesn't calculate risks. How many lives have been saved by paws and snouts without us even knowing? It's powerful to think about this. And perhaps even more powerful is to admit that they are always available, always attentive, always by our side, even when we don't realize it. This leads us to reflect on the decisions we make daily, on the impact of how we treat these beings who, silently, are shelter, alarm, comfort, protection, and strength. It's not just affection, it's responsibility, it's awareness, and yes, it's also love, but a love that demands nothing in return. A love that acts when all others paralyze. This Border Collie's journey doesn't end when his owner is discharged. In fact, it begins there, because every step he took, every memory he left, every life he touched along that journey built something greater than simply saving one man. He created a symbol, a reminder that heroes don't always wear capes. Sometimes they have fur, watchful eyes, and determined paws. And when you encounter stories like this, something inside you changes. Because you understand, without needing anyone to explain, that there are values that lie dormant amidst the rush of the world, but that still live, and live well. You just need to know how to see. You just need to know how to listen, even when the sound comes in the form of a bark or silence. Comment below. I believe in paw-toed heroes. If this story also awakened something in you that you can't ignore. Now I want to go even deeper into this subject. If you've made it this far, it's because you felt, just like me, that this story isn't just about a dog. It's about connection, presence, courage, and everything we sometimes forget to value in the rush of life. So if this video resonated with you, if at any point you stopped and thought, "This is real, this touched me," please leave a like. Not for the number, but because it shows me the message reached you. And if you want to continue receiving content like this, which goes beyond the surface and touches on something deeper, subscribe to the channel. Here we don't just tell stories, we build bridges. Between you and what truly makes sense. Oh, and write in the comments, "I'm with you until the end," just so I know you've stuck with me until now. These exchanges, even simple ones, are what create this community we're building here. There's a video here that complements this topic. Click and continue with me there, because there are more stories that deserve to be lived and told.